धर्मक्षेत्रे कुरुक्षेत्रे समवेता युयुत्सवः।
ओम सहनं भवतु सहनं भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनाधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै. Let us sit down, study together. Through discussion, we sharpen each other's intellect. May we not bear any ill will to each other. Om Shanti, Om Shanti, Om Shanti.
So today we are going to start with the Shloka 19 or verse 19 on the second chapter, and we will go as far as we can go. But this is one of the deepest kind of thought process and discussion that we have. And the biggest connection, and I will suggest that you listen this podcast to the end, because in the end we are going to kind of summarize and see the value of these discussions, because it talks about Atma and beyond, which is Brahman or Paramatma, but at the same time, it doesn't discredit the body. Instead, I think there is a big value of the body as well. So question is body important or unimportant? And how does this discussion, because Krishna's focus on every discussion and every segment we are doing is ultimately that Arjuna should arise and fight. So how does this discussion of Atma and Paramatma lead, or how does Krishna lead Arjuna into thinking that it is good to fight? So, but before that, we will start with the 19 and 20, which basically establishes the characteristics of Atma. It's like anatomy and physiology. And he's very systematic, he's very methodical. So Atma doesn't kill, or Atma is not killed, is where he starts in 19. This portion of Gita is one of your most favorite portion, Amitav. So why don't you kind of express that view you think about Atma? You know, it's like neither it kills nor it is killed. It starts from there.
Actually, there is a little bit of introduction just before 19.
Yeah.
It is in 16 and 17. It established first the baseline.
The Sat
What
and
is
Asat, right?
what is absolute reality and what is relative truth? And the criteria is anything that is destructible or perishable is a relative truth or not absolute truth. On the other hand, that is imperishable is the absolute truth. So that is the baseline. From here, it all starts. In these particular verses, there are three concepts. One, what is the soul or Atman? What is Paramatma or the Brahman? And what is this body? And how should know about it so that we can modify our perception. Arjuna gets into a sorrowful state because he is identifying himself only with the body. Krishna takes him to a different level of thought process where he tells Arjuna, yes, you have a body through which you do the work or the duty, but in essence, you are the soul which is indestructible, just like the Brahman or the life energy of this universe. So the Atman or the soul and the Brahman, the life energy of the universe, are indestructible and they have the similar attributes. Whereas the body does not have it. Okay, it is destructible, it goes through several phases. But it is the soul that is embodied, and that's how we function in this world.
Right. So coming back to the sloka, that It neither kills nor is killed. That's where it starts. Na jayate mriyate va kadachit nyayam bhutva bhavita na vanabhuya. So this is where it starts. But then it goes on to saying, which I love reading this verse because it's so poetic. Vashansi jirnani yatha vihaya navani grihnati naroparani तथा शरीराणि विहाय जीर्णा न्यन्याति संयाति नवानि देहे।
जिस प्रकार मनुष्य अपने पुराने वस्त्रों को त्याग कर नए वस्त्र धारण करता है, उसी प्रकार आत्मा पुराने तथा व्यर्थ के शरीरों को त्याग कर नवीन भौतिक शरीर धारण करती है।
So I love this because it talks very simple, like you change clothes, Atma changes body. Very simple, but it expresses what this body and relationship between the body and Atma. So once the body becomes like not useful to the Atma or incapacitated or is in position of not functioning properly, it changes the body and starts from, again, childhood, adult, then recycles it. So this is the whole idea of incarnation, and the whole idea of Atma remains kind of somewhere inside that body, and it's worth knowing about it, not just intellectually, but experiencing. And that's why I think, and I feel that it's a guided meditation that he does for Arjuna.
If you look at this Atma Paramatma thing, soul and Brahman, the life energy of the universe, you can see the reference in Isha Upanishad and the very famous couple of slokas, number 1 and 2. Om Purnamidam Purnamadah Purnat Purnameva Buchyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. What do you mean? What it means that this means Atman is complete, that which is Brahman, that is complete. If you take anything in and out of either, it does not change. It's a constant. It is ever pervading, it is immutable, it is ever present. The next verse, Om tadejati tannayjati taddure tadvantike tadantarasya sarvasam yas sarvasya vajyatam. He is far yet near, near yet far. He doesn't have any shape, but whatever he enters into becomes embodied. So this is the concept, the thought process behind these slokas in Gita, that yes, we have a body, we have nam rupam, we have got a name, we have got a physical appearance, but in essence, we are not that, because Atman is imperishable, whereas the body is perishable.
No, that's a very good point. And I love that Isha slok, that is the first one that you mentioned, because I know you touched upon it, but it's like when you take out infinity from infinity, you take the whole thing out of that whole, and yet the whole remains. This is beyond mathematics. Beyond normal mathematics is 2 minus 2 is 0, but it doesn't get to 0. It's like it stays as complete as whole. And what you take out is also whole. So some people have said, okay, you take a bucket out of ocean, and ocean looks like, the bucket, it doesn't notice that you have taken a bucket of water away. But that really doesn't explain it, this mathematics. And the only way to understand that if Krishna represents that Brahman and it comes out, he is the whole representation of that whole where it comes from. It's difficult to explain mathematically, but that is what, like somebody in one of the Upanishad, it says that it's unknowable, but it's worth knowing. That expresses what we are talking about Atma and Paramatma, but it can be experienced because Krishna is not talking logical. This is talking what is the truth as he sees it to Arjuna. And he wants Arjuna to experience that. He wants us to experience that.
It says in subsequent verses and also in Katha Upanishad, this realization is something which happens at your consciousness level.
Yeah.
It is beyond all our five senses. It is beyond our mind. It is beyond even our intellect.
Yeah.
Okay. So it is only a realization, and Krishna gradually directs Arjuna towards that realization and tells Arjuna that you are confused because you are associating your thoughts as body as your identity, and there lies your problem. Okay. And you have to realize you are essentially an Atman, which is embodied.
Yeah.
And that.
So when you talk about subsequent verses, we will take it up to there, which is the next one. And so the first he says what Atman's, is it is not killed, it's not killable, and it also it's like changing your clothes. The Atma changes the body, the Nam Roop that you are talking. And then he talks about, it describes it a little more detail of Nainam Chindante Shastrani, Nainam Dahati Pavaka, Nainam Nachainam Kledayanti Apo, Na Shoshayati Maruta. So it's not affected by any physical means. I mean, today's words, we can say it cannot be killed by missile or it cannot be killed by laser. I mean, whatever word we do, basically it is not a material thing, because whatever shastra we have, whatever air or fire or whatever physical means is there, that can only act on physical elements. But this is beyond that. This is something that cannot be, the next verse is about, it cannot be pierced. And so it basically describes these two verses that just kind of indestructible.
That's right. These external factors affects only the physical body. It cannot touch the soul because soul is beyond these external factors.
Right. So it is, as we said, imperishable, permanent entity, and there is a relationship between the body, the Atma,
Yes.
that you described.
One thing I also wanted to mention, that this perishable and imperishable criteria.
The Sat and Asat, right?
Yes. Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, because there is a chapter on Sat and Asat. In general, when we talk about Sat and Asat, we think in terms of good and evil.
Right.
Okay. But that is not what is meant by Sat and Asat.
Not in this Gita anyway.
Not in Gita, not in Vedanta.
Okay.
Okay.
So that is not, people should know that.
So Sat
It's not
is
good and
something,
bad.
Sat is imperishable, absolute truth. Asat is perishable. It is a relative truth, how we see it. That's all.
Yeah.
It reminds me of the great example of Einstein's relativity. A person sitting in a train, he tosses the ball and catches the ball. Okay. To him, it appears it is going on a vertical line.
Yeah.
Okay. But
Oh,
the observer outside can see the movement of the ball as a parabola. So what I'm saying is that this is a very, very important concept. The common saying is that vista changes according to the viewer, position of the viewer.
Yeah.
Okay. So Arjun is looking at all these events and killing and all that from his bodily perspective or physical perspective of the event. However, Krishna has a global view, and from the Atma Paramatma type of view, where it is just a happening.
Yeah.
Arjun is just an agent.
Yeah. And the next verse comes, that's the one you were saying, referring earlier. It's like avyakto. It is not expressed. So it's not in your perception. Achintyo, it's beyond what you can think about. This is and vikar rahit. It doesn't have any defects. So basically, he's trying to express it, but it cannot be expressed. Arjun is trying to think, but it cannot be thought about because it's not in this domain. It's like in another universe. It's like a parallel universe that we can't see. And then he says that, knowing this, you shouldn't worry about it. But it is conceptually so hard to imagine, right?
Yeah. Abhyakta is unmanifest.
Yeah.
Unmanifest. Okay.
Well, the eyes cannot see it. I mean, basically.
It is beyond this, our five senses.
Beyond the five senses, yeah.
It is beyond our mind.
Yeah.
It is beyond even our intellect.
Yeah.
Okay. So the common saying is that these are the mind, the intellect, the five senses, they are all finite. And because the Atman, the soul, and the Brahman, the life energy of the universe, they are infinite. So with finite measurements, you cannot measure the infinite.
Well, I think, it's like I can get it to some extent because, it's like now we know that, like our ears, they have a range of what frequency we can hear. It's like what whale can hear, we can't hear. Then the visual range, what an eagle can see, from flying up thousands of feet, they can see something that we can't see. So our visual range is limited, our hearing range is limited. It's like infrared, we can't see them, but it has an effect on us. So there are so many things beyond the range of our perception, but even with those perception, even the acuity, even if we increase, this is completely beyond the perception range, right?
Yes. Actually, what happens because of our limitation in the ranges of sense organs, mind and intellect, we create our world with our own values and standard. But that is not the actual universe or actual events in the universe. Okay. We always taint it with our limited capability. And there's a verse in this whole section which says this gives us actually it kind of leads us to duality. Okay. So this, to understand this duality is very, very important. Okay. I remember seeing a movie made in 1954 by Akira Kurosawa. It is called Rashomon. And it's a movie. I loved it.
Is it a Bengali movie?
No, it's made in Japanese. It was also translated in English.
Okay.
Okay. That was the movie. A Japanese couple in medieval period was going through the forest. They were robbed and the wife was sexually assaulted. Then ultimately he complains and puts a complaint to the king's court, and the witnesses are all called. Okay, and different witnesses have different version of that event.
Mhm.
What it emphasizes that from whatever point they saw the event, their story changed accordingly.
Yeah.
So the perception is an individual thing. By perception, we cannot understand the absoluteness of an event. Actually, this is one thing I learned long time back. What are the components of perception? It has three components. One, our past learning and experiences,
Yeah.
which conditions us. Second, how it suits us, I, me, mine, my, all these things, and what we expect or desire out of it. That taints entire thought process and creates perception. Okay, so in these particular verses, look at Arjun. Arjun is looking at the event from his perception. Krishna is, and that's why he's so much confused about it. He's confused about his duty and all that. Krishna leads him out of his perception to a broader view of the whole situation.
Yeah. So let's say Arjun was confused. Now he's moving towards clarity.
That's right.
And you brought up such a good point that when we talk about world, we are basically talking about my world, my perception, how much I see. It's like you and I live in America, and we don't know what's going on in Kashmir, or we don't know what's going on in Ukraine. So person there, he has a different world out there for him. So
Exactly.
everyone, depending on their location, depending on how they're brought up and what kind of thoughts they have. So it's all comes down to your absolute and relative description, that it's a relative truth that he sees,
That's right.
which may be totally different than, there may be some similarity in you and me, at least geopolitical wise, compared to somebody who is in a different location.
I have a very simple example of this relative and absolute thing. Let's say that we go to a town and establish our medical practice. One succeeds, the other one fails.
Right.
The one who fails, that town is pretty. One who succeeds, him, the town is pretty good. The town has not changed. Okay,
Yeah.
it is our success, failure, or our perception. We call the place bad or good.
That's a good
Okay.
example if you're a doctor.
Yeah, I mean, it's true for anybody
It's true
else.
for any business. It could be same
Any
thing for
business,
business.
anything.
Yeah.
Okay. I remember I was very much enamored by Florida and all that nice warm weather compared to Michigan and all that. So one time I went to Florida in summer. The hot and humid weather nearly killed me. so,
Yeah.
so what I'm saying is that I'm not saying anything bad about any particular state, but what I'm talking about from our point of view, we like, dislike, okay? And that doesn't change the absolute. It is our perspective that creates our world.
I know. And you talked about heat, and I always wonder this thing, it's like we both grew up in Patna, right? That's where we went
Yes.
to medical school. In those days, when we were in PMCH, and even when we were resident, the rooms had just had fan. It was hot. We used to walk from one block to the other, and it's a long walk. And or a rickshaw, rickshaw puller. Now it's all e-rickshaw. And we used to use them, and it's like when I go back now, I need air conditioner. So same body, of course, a little older, but when we were there, we did, that was life. That was our life. We didn't feel
Exactly.
like we are deprived, or we were happy, sweating, and whatever. So it is all relative, and that relativity is important to grasp here.
Actually, Ramakrishna Paramahansa used to say that this is all Maya, created by our mind. We live in this world of Maya, so we function according to Maya, mostly.
Yeah, I will come back to this thing, a little later. So once we get to 39, so basically, this is where we were, and then Krishna goes on to continue this thing. But even if you don't think that this Atma is imperishable, and this is just a one life, one person, one life kind of situation, even then you shouldn't worry because this is going to end. So he does give that kind of theoretical break here that, yes, maybe you don't believe in Atma, you don't believe in reincarnation, but even in that situation, it's one life and, one destiny and one body, and this is going to end anyway. So all you are doing is, getting rid of this body, which is going to end anyway. So this logic, it is a little soft logic for me, but do you have any thoughts on that one?
Yes, actually, the verse basically starts with, even if you do not believe on all these things,
Yeah.
high philosophy, you should practice swadharma, which is your duty and the way you should live.
Yeah.
Okay. So he tells you a practical way of it. First of all, he talks about the philosophy, the thought process behind non-attachment and all that. But then he also gives you a way that even if you do not believe all these things, you are in this world to play a certain role. So play that role.
Yeah.
And that is a very important point.
No, I think both are important. The first one, because many people, I mean, apart from, Eastern kind of population that, Buddhist or Hindu or Jains and that kind of population, the rest of the world doesn't believe necessarily in this recycling or reincarnation. They do have this soul, but it's a message for them as well that even if you don't believe, you still should do your duty. I mean, do what is good for here. And the next one is the one that you referenced earlier, Avyaktadi Tini Bhutani, Vyakt Madhyani Bharata. So I love this thing because this is where I think I'm going to focus a little bit more. First of all, you mentioned it as well earlier in our discussion, that the manifest portion of this Atma, which is the body. So there is three steps, right? Avyak, which is unmanifest, then the manifest, and then unmanifest again, right?
Yes. Actually, Wayne Dyer used to say that we came from nowhere, we are now here, and we are going nowhere. Basically, that's the verse. We are unmanifest before as Atman, as a spark from Brahman.
Yeah.
We are embodied, which our physical presence in this world. And then when the body dissolves or perishes, we go back to that original state of unmanifestation.
So this manifest period is an important period.
Sure.
Although probably, if we count in number of years or how much time we spend as manifest, probably is shorter than the unmanifest.
Possibly, I take it this way, that when you are manifest in this physical world,
Yeah.
okay, the physical world is also a manifestation of the Brahman or Paramatma, the super soul or the universal life energy.
Yeah.
Okay. So when we are in this world, in a manifested form, embodied form, we do what is we are ordained to do.
Yeah. But Amitabh, this one says avyakta dini bhutani. I don't know if bhutani means just the body. I think it talks about the whole manifest.
Bhutan is actually existence.
Yeah, so it's talking about the whole entire and existence as manifest, not just you and me, right?
No,
I mean, you and me included, but so the whole existence has a finite time.
it's a unmanifested existence. It's a manifested existence back to unmanifested existence.
Yeah.
It's a cycle.
And that is for everything, bhutani
Yep.
means anything in the universe.
Yes.
And it could be individual planets or individual person or individual animal. So it just very broad, isn't it?
Very, very, very broad. Actually, if you look at meaning of prakriti,
Yeah.
of the natural nature, okay,
Mhm.
anything that is made in nature is made of 5 components.
The elements that, it's like,
Well, I don't want to use the word element because that gives a different feeling. Because by element we know about physics and all those things.
chemistry.
I say 5 component:
Okay.
earth, wind, fire, space. Chiti up maru tej buyam.
Yeah.
Okay, so these
I think in Gita it also adds man, buddhi, ahankar. So those are the 3 kind of subtle ones, that.
no, not in the creation of the world.
Okay.
Okay, in the creation of the world, this is a little different
Okay.
because the Vedanta thought of universe as a universal body. Okay, so the natural element come out of this universal source of energy that is Brahman.
Yeah.
Okay, and then when the physical things are created, they begin with a small subunits called tanmatra. And then there's a desire or there's a force behind this creation, which is called mahat, which is the great desire. So Brahman gets a great desire, creates the visible world with small subunits of tanmatra, and then the gross manifested world.
Right.
So, okay, so this is the essence of the.
That fascinates me. It's like even Krishna says, Sambhavami yuge yuge. He makes it happen. So there is this component of desire. So that desire component, even Brahma will have to have that desire to create. Even us, we need desire to have a car or something. So the phenomena, it goes step by step. And I think all the complication of, it's like our concept and everything, you call it I, me, mine, is this on those 5 components, at least in human being, this man, buddhi, ahankar comes, and then you have all this complex situation that we create around us.
That is right. At the level of man or the mind, it is where the ego desire complex works.
Yeah.
Buddhi or the dhi is the discriminating mind.
Yeah.
Okay. So ego, ahankar is our idea about our own existence and looking at everything from I, me, my point of view. So this is how the composition of a living human being or a living anything. And then there is the creation of the universe, okay, according to Vedanta.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's very, very important. The body perishes, but the body in this physical world is a vehicle to accomplish what should be ordained to accomplish.
Yeah. So avyaktadini bhutani, I just wanted to connect this verse with the sat and asat verse. So basically, when it is avyakt, that sat element is there. And when it is vyakt, which is manifest, then sat and asat are there. And when it is unmanifest again, the sat remains and the asat is kind of
Exactly.
goes off.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. So then, of course, Krishna talks, which is very natural, like ascharyavat paschata. It's like many people are amazed at this concept. So he realizes that people either don't want to look at it. Many people just live their life and not bother about knowing Atma and Paramatma. That life continues. But those who start looking, they're amazed. They're wondering what's going on here.
That is right. That's very important. Actually, when we look at it, majority of people do not think in terms of it. Okay. And people who try to imbibe this concept,
Yeah.
and they're amazed at it. Okay, how wonderful that concept, or how wonderful that mechanism is.
Yeah.
Okay. So it is a function of realization rather than understanding through your mind or sense organs.
So, that's just a natural phenomena that he describes that happens to people. And then he summarizes the whole thing is like inside your body, this Atma is indestructible. Basically, that's the Shloka 30 that we thought we will end here. But I think we'll continue a few more shlokas on that. And so basically he says, Swadharma Bhakti Chavakshya. So forget about everything else. Even, you have a duty to do. Swadharma means your duty. We are a doctor, we have a duty to do. If I am on call and somebody comes sick, I take care of that person. I don't have to think about, a million other things. Who is he related to? What is his belief? We don't do that, right? Patient comes in emergency room. You take medical history, you don't, some social history, but you're not getting into his beliefs and his, what has he done, good, bad, ugly. We take care of them. So that's what he's saying. You're a soldier, you take care of this.
Yes.
And then a few, the following slokas, which is he talking about what we call in India dunyadari.
Practical.
There is an English word for that,
Practical world.
Yeah, it's like gossip. I mean, it's like, but everybody is judging another person. I mean, that's what I would, describe to. So if Arjun doesn't do this, people are going to say what a coward he is. We see that in political circles. I mean, every step is being criticized. If you are a leader, if you are a hero, and everybody is kind of worships you, and you do something like what happened to our golfer here, it's like he was a hero for many young people, and then suddenly he had an affair and some bad things he did, and his rating went down, right? I mean,
yeah, I mean, the practical world obviously is little different. Okay, here all this fame, all these things can cause emotions to other people. Okay, again, I always say the devil within ourselves is the ego desire complex.
yeah.
In Abrahamic religion, they call it Satan, but Satan is not a particular person.
Yeah.
It's not a. It is our ego desire complex.
Yeah.
Okay. If somebody is doing good, instead of being happy about it, you start comparing. Okay, and why it is not happening to me. That kind of dissatisfaction. Okay. So what I'm saying is that Krishna is now giving him a very, very down to earth worldly view how the society is going to evaluate him.
Yeah.
Okay. So he
Which
has
it
given
does,
the,
which it does, right?
yes.
I
And
mean,
he,
we continue evaluating Gandhi even now, or Nehru, they have been gone,
yes,
or George Washington here. I mean, we keep evaluating and putting them on some pedestal or some kind of, we tell people to feel the who is your mentor.
yes. I mean, this whole session that we discussed, first part is the philosophical part. Second part, he says that even if you don't believe, how you should act upon. And the third one is that he's saying if you do not live up to your reputation or what you are ordained to do, then how the society is going to evaluate you.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's what I like about Krishna. Is like he's covering the entire kind of. It's not just he's talking about Atma and Paramatma,
That is right.
covering all kind of ground.
Yes.
And
Yes.
then comes the 38, which I think we want to finish today. Sukha dukhe same kritva labha labha jaya jaya tato yuddhāya yujyasva naivam papam avapsasi. I mean, I love this, that ultimately he says, go and do yudh, go and fight. I mean,
Yes.
that's what he all this logic and it's different logic, and he says get up and fight.
Yes. And because he primed Arjuna with the thought that everything that is happening in this physical world, it is because of your identification with I and body, nam rupam, okay? Sukha dukha, or the happiness and the sorrow, okay? This is happening at the body level, at the mind level, but you are beyond it. So get up and go ahead and do your duty, which is to take part in the war.
Yeah, sukha dukhe same kritva. I mean,
Labha labha
ups
ujaya
and
jaya.
down will happen, just let it happen and
Yes.
move on, fight. And
Yes.
this is where I want to bring this topic, and I have been talking with you the whole of this week. Is there is soul, there is Atma, there is Paramatma, and if Atma is the real one, why should I fight? Why should I fight if body is it's only temporary? But you can flip that logic and say, like the question I had is body unimportant or body important? And to me, both are good. Both are correct answer. Body is unimportant because Atma is the real thing, which is permanent, imperishable within us, and body is just a manifested portion for a period of time. So Atma is more important, and body is rather unimportant from that point of view. But then body is important because it has a finite time in which you can experience, you can do things, you can make this universe better, this manifest world better. And for lack of example, let me tell you this, and that there is a beautiful road that is there, and I tell Amitabh, this is a beautiful road, but when you come to see it, there is garbage all over the road, and you don't see the road. What will you do? You will clean the garbage. So in Krishna's time, or even in Ram's time, there is a lot of garbage in that manifest world. And that is hampering growth, healthy growth of other people. It's like in today's world, I mean, if you grow up in area where there is terrorist prevalence, you are more likely to become a terrorist. If you grow up in some place like Boston, or places where there is institutions that kind of challenge you to become the best in the world and invent and bring new medical treatments, you will flourish there. So what will you do if you are in a place where you have to clean up things? So I think that's the reason even though Atma is, is the thing, this manifest world needs to be beautiful, needs to be a place where people can flourish and know more about Atma than more about garbage. So that cleaning up operation is what Krishna is after. Krishna wants Arjun to help clean up this garbage. And once that kind of thought process, that kind of people are gone, then there is possibility of bringing up a society that is kind of supports that kind of growth. I mean, what do you think about that?
I think basically it is the same because your inner nature is divine. Okay. Therefore, you have to maintain the place where you are living in this. When you have the physical body, you have to make it better for sustenance. Okay. And you can do better only through your physical body and actions. It is good to have that theoretical background, that understanding of the philosophy, but ultimately your functioning in this world happens through this perishable body. So while we live, we strive to maintain and sustain this body, this world, the universe.
As simple as that, yeah.
Yes, that's as simple as that.
Yeah. I mean, one thing before we finish is Krishna.
Krishna, I would like to say one thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. There are people who knows this nature of Atman Brahman connection.
Yeah.
It is not running away from the physical world. It is to have your mental state in that that higher plane.
Yeah.
But performance has to be there through the body. Actually, if when you go in this deeper into this chapter later on, we will see what does a yogi do. He, through his yoga, he gets the self-realization and realization about this world and Paramatma or the Brahman.
Yeah.
He is at a higher level, okay, but he doesn't stay there, and he remains in the society for performing good deeds. And this reminds me of Ramakrishna Paramahansa and Vivekananda.
Yeah.
Okay, Ramakrishna taught his disciples essence of Vedanta.
Yeah.
So he did that to Vivekananda too. But Vivekananda, instead of staying in the temple, he came into the society and tried to revive the Sanatan Dharma or the Hindutva. Not Hindutva, but the Hindu viewpoint or Upanishadic viewpoint or Gita's viewpoint. The point I'm trying to strive at, this theoretical knowledge is not something in action. It is the thought behind the action.
Yeah, and that brings me to this point that thought behind the action or the action itself. Action speaks louder than your words. And look at Krishna. What did Krishna do? I mean, he knew all this, what he's teaching Arjun today, but he kills Kans. And Kans was kind of, epitome of evil at that time, and also I love the symbolism when Krishna was born. So Krishna's parents were jailed by these Kans. And when Krishna was born, it's like the doors of the jail flung open. So, this is a symbolism for freedom. So Krishna, even from birth, represents freedom. Whether the jail door opened or not is not the topic here. The topic is that, yes, his birth, represented freedom of some sort, or freedom of many sorts. And his actions of, it's like getting rid of the evil people, kind of substantiates our thought that the manifest world needs to be kept, as you said, sustenance, and free of garbage and free of bad elements. Avyaktadini bhutani vyakta madhyani bhava.
कृष्ण व्यक्त अव्यक्त शक्ति है, सदा सर्वदा कृष्ण व्याप्त है। इस जीवन में कृष्ण सखा है, इस जीवन में कृष्ण सखा है, अंत समय में कृष्ण प्राप्त है। कृष्ण व्यक्त अव्यक्त शक्ति